43-year-old Wayne Burgarello will face criminal charges after he shot two people that were sleeping in one of his vacant properties in Nevada. Now, apparently, there was a woman who was shot. Her name is Janai Wilson, and apparently she had been going to that vacant property for the past 3 years on random nights and, just spending the night there. And one night she went there with a 34-year-old by the name of Cody Devine, and they injected themselves with methamphetamine and they fell asleep. Now, apparently, the property owner, Wayne Burgarello, I should say, was notified that there were people sleeping in his vacant property, so he showed up with two guns. He found the two people sleeping there, and he told them to get up. According to his account of what happened, they stood up, and one of them lifted their arm, and he thought that they were going to shoot at him, so he decided to fire rounds. As a result, Devine died. The woman in this case, Janai Wilson, did not die. However, the Nevada man is claiming stand your ground as his defense, even though they were both completely unarmed, and even though they didn't walk into his home. Yes, they walked into his vacant property. They shouldn't have been sleeping there. That's definitely trespassing. But to justify shooting two armed people who were sleeping at the time, it's a little difficult to say that you were basically dealing with an imminent threat there.
Yeah, you were standing your ground when they weren't even standing. They weren't barely conscious. Yeah. And look, it's possible, we don't know if he's going to get off, but it's possible that he could get off despite the fact that he's going to say his life was an imminent threat. The only reason they're not both dead is she was able to flee as he fired shots at her after being shot twice. I don't know how you make that case and have people listen, but I mean, they were using drugs. The juries are probably going to be influenced by that. And Nevada's not exactly the most liberal state when it comes to gun rights issues and things like that. I
know, which is why I worry about this. I mean, if you read into the story, there are other details that are really shocking and really depressing. Now, first, let me tell you what the autopsy revealed. It found that Devine had been shot 5 times, including one shot that struck him in the head. Wilson, that's the woman in this case, was shot in the leg and the stomach, but she was able to flee to contact police. Now, after police were contacted, I mean, you would assume that he'd get arrested. I mean, he literally just shot and killed a man, but that's actually not what happened. In fact, he didn't get arrested until 3 months later after authorities decided that they had concluded their investigation. And he did get charged, finally, with first-degree murder and attempted murder. And again, his defense is stand your ground. So we'll see how this plays out in Nevada. But man, I don't know what happened to the days where you call the cops. I mean, we know that we have issues with excessive force. That's definitely for sure. But if you think that there are people trespassing on your vacant property and they might pose a threat to you, call the police. Why are you going to show up with 2 separate guns and shoot multiple rounds at this guy who literally just woke up?
Shot him five times. And like, I understand if you hear people are on your property or whatever and you don't want to call the police, so you decide to go there. You pick up a gun and then you're like, you know what? I should be careful. 2 guns. This isn't a John Woo movie. What do you need the second gun for? Are you expecting to have some sort of drawn-out gun battle with a pack of drifters or something like that? And we cover, obviously, a lot of stand-your-ground cases, and we obviously pick the ones, because they get to us, the ones that it seems hard to understand how you would go about killing people in that way. But it almost feels at this point like we're being tested, like they're going out of their way to see how far they can take it, what they can do. I mean, the people they're not even awake barely when you're shooting at them. Like, it was bad enough when the guy set the trap for the people who came into his basement. What would be worse? Like, an infant? I don't know at this point. Someone who was actually dead at the point and you just shot their corpse? What could possibly be harder to justify?
I don't know, and I also don't understand how anyone can justify killing an unarmed person. Like, I understand maybe you were afraid that someone was trespassing onto your property, but again, it goes back to the issue of you calling the police and not taking matters into your own hands. And the fact that he didn't get arrested until 3 months after this occurred is really troubling. Now, he doesn't have a prior record, and so, he might not be a threat to society according to the police, but if some guy is just walking into a vacant property, it belongs to him, I understand that, and just shooting someone who isn't an imminent threat, I see that man as a threat to society.
Yes.
And policies like stand your ground or the castle doctrine give people a pass. People who want to use their firearms in a violent fashion get the ability to do it because of these laws.
Yes.
So it sets a really, really bad precedent.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because we will investigate people for their mental health if they write crazy tweets or a manifesto online or something.
Unless it's the Santa Barbara guy.
Exactly.
In that
Well,
case, post as many videos as you want.
Exactly. But no, like, we understand that that shows that you might do something in the future, but like gunning down 2 people who are sleeping, that doesn't scare you? That doesn't, like, I wouldn't want him living in my area. Like, what if my kids were to jump over his fence to get a ball or something? Is he gonna gun them down? If he finds them sleeping under a tree in his yard, is he gonna kill them? That should scare you more than any written manifesto.
Yeah.